Even though we say we got to dust our shoes off before we enter work, it's not that effective if my home life is chaotic and destructive. It's going to carry over into my work life. I can't, because It's me. It's a part of me.
Right.
And so nourishing my home life is just as important as the way I handle my business.
Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Hustle on Purpose podcast. Today we have with us Spencer Davis. Spencer, how's it going, man?
It's going good, man. Thanks for having me. I'm happy and excited to be here.
Yeah, happy to have you here. It's been a long time, man. So we go way back. Used to work together at a real estate investing company. Mm-hmm. That's how I met you, and it's been, I don't know, years ago. And enjoyed getting to know you kind of through that process of working together. And I know life has changed a lot since I first met you. So yeah, just happy to kind of catch up and get to hear a little bit about what you're doing now with Davis Playgrounds. So yeah, just tell everyone that doesn't know you a little bit about yourself and what you do.
Well, I'm Spencer. Like GT said before, we worked together at a real estate investing company. He was my boss. He told me what to do.
The best boss ever.
The best boss ever.
That's why none of us work there anymore.
So I worked there for a couple of years with GT, and then I got the opportunity. So I worked with my dad and my sister at Davis Playgrounds. And my dad approached me and said, "Hey, do you want to come work for me?" And I kind of jumped at the opportunity. So for the last couple of years, I've been working with Davis Playgrounds.
Yeah. I'm glad to hear that it's been going well, because I think we've talked about it before. We're both in a spot where it's like, I'm extremely grateful for the opportunity that I had and the education I got at the company we worked for. But it's kind of built like a stepping stone, you know?
Yeah.
And you can take what you learned there and apply it to what you do now.
Yeah, I would, honestly, like, the carryover was massive. If I had started Davis Playgrounds without any prior experience, that learning curve would have been monstrous. Yep. It was still, I still had a lot to learn, but having that prior experience really carried over.
Yeah. I tell people all the time they're looking to get into real estate investing or whatever. It's like, man, if you can find something like a job, like a role that you used to have with that investment company, it's like you can get in somewhere, have a job that pays decent, you get an incredible education, connections, whatever. You can learn so much about houses, how to renovate those houses, how to talk to vendors, how to hire and fire contractors. There's so much of that stuff that if you can learn it on someone else's dime, do a good job for your employer, but get paid while you're going through all of that education, I think that's a win-win. I think when people are out there looking for jobs nowadays, I have X amount of monthly expenses this job needs to cover. And like, that's really important. But there's stuff that comes along with a job other than just the paycheck.
100%.
So finding a place where, like, you're going to get an education in a field that can benefit you in the future. To me, I treated it like a college degree. It's like, I'm going to go to college. I'm going to go work at this place for 4 years, get a degree in how to buy, renovate, and do whatever real estate related stuff.
That was the smart approach. I was not that smart. Just needed a job.
Well,
luckily I landed at the right one.
Yeah.
But you're right. I mean, if I was to talk to myself when I was graduating high school or getting into college and could give him some advice, then I would definitely be way more intentional with all of my choices, especially, what job I'm looking for and what ladder do I want to climb.
It's hard because you got to pay your bills.
Yeah.
It's not that every job you have to take has to be your dream job.
That's a trap that I feel like a lot of
Yeah.
I fell into that trap. I used to think that I need to find a career that changes the world. Like I set the bar so high and that was unrealistic that everything else below it seemed, man, I was just so prideful. It seemed not worth my time. Yeah. And I was prideful and egotistical anyway. So, once I gave up on this unrealistic expectation of what I want to do, it's not big enough. And just found something and gave my all at that. Used that experience to level up. I am so blessed and fulfilled to be where I'm at right now. And I wouldn't have gotten there if I just chased those made up scenarios in my head.
Yeah. I think that's a common issue. And I think, so you've got 3 young boys. I've got 3 young kids. I always think about what can I do for them that's going to lead them to have a healthy mindset when they kind of enter that adulthood. Because it's like you want to instill that confidence in them that they can be the president, or you can be whatever you want to be, but you also want to ground them in the sense of like what Martin Luther King quote, like you can be a trash man but be the best trash man you can. You can be the president or whatever that thing is you want to be, but like sometimes the CEO starts in the mailroom. It's like you got to have the confidence to believe in yourself that you can do whatever, and also the humility to take the mailroom job.
Yeah, I was talking with my mother-in-law a while back. Forgot what book I was listening to at the time, but it was talking about having a CEO mindset at whatever position you're at. And I know we've used the verbiage before, talked before about leading up. And those ideas really changed the way that I approach my work. Because it's like, I can sit here and complain about where I'm not, about what I don't have, or I can be grateful for what I do have and the opportunity that I have right now, as in the work I was doing. And I can give it my all, try to be the most helpful I can to my superiors. And can we talk about God on the podcast? Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
And trust that God has equipped me with everything I need for today.
Yeah.
And the doors that are going to be open will be open. And that has been the case. And it's a lot more fulfilling doing it that way than doing the same stuff either way and then complaining and being miserable.
Absolutely. Yeah. The when you're sitting there complaining about the job that you have, what is that doing to open up any doors for you in the future? Because it's like any outside employer just sees you as somebody that's jumping around from job to job or whatever. Just do the best you can with where you're at. Anyway, so that led you carried some of that stuff over to now working for the family business, Davis Playgrounds. And I want to learn more about that because at least for me, when I left that job and was running my own business, there's a whole new massive learning curve that you start undertaking, right? And I think for me, it's helped me be a better person. Like I have so much, there's just a depth of understanding, I think, that's come with it for me. It's just like I'm way more aware that everyone just has their own stuff they're dealing with and like trying to balance all of it. When you go from that employee kind of mindset to that owner's mindset, and now you're having to take in all of the factors, I think it broadened my mind a little bit, and being a parent and all of that, it's just kind of like leveled me out quite a bit. Yeah, that'll broaden the mind real good. Yeah. So how's that been for you going into more of that owner's mindset and dealing with running your own, running that business?
So the transition was, I don't know. I kind of just went in it with an open mind.
Yeah.
And whatever happens, happens. And I'm going to give it my all. Kind of like what we've been talking about. But, I'm essentially, I had to start at the bottom and learn the basics of selling a playground, how do playgrounds go together, what do I need to measure, just the basics of the business. And I'm steadily growing and learning more about the working on the business. I took a couple of accounting classes online, and I'm learning more about the accounting process, and it's been a slow learning process. There hadn't been a huge sense of urgency to learn everything right now. So the transition's been good. The dynamic is awesome. You would think, in fact, my brother warned me, hey man, I don't know if this is the best idea that you work with, Dad and Jennifer.
Well, it's high risk, right?
It's high risk, but it's been a high reward in our situation. We work very, very, very well together. There hadn't been one argument. I mean, we just have a blast. But going from that dynamic of a bunch of dudes in a room to now I'm with my dad and my sister, it's been a fun change.
Yeah, that's great to hear, because it's you hear all the horror stories about families in business together, and I watched an interview with a guy that bought the Utah Jazz. This is kind of a tangent, but it stuck with me. And he had created this company, and I won't get the name of the company right, but as he was growing this company, he brought his dad on, brought his brother on into high-level positions, and they worked together and like grew this thing, and they sold it for, I don't know, like $20 billion or something. And he was kind of talking about business and family, and he was like, the reason I decided to bring them on board is like I knew the company was going somewhere, and I realized I don't want to get to the top. I don't want to get to the top. I don't want to win and look around and be celebrating by myself, right? And he was like, has it been hard? Sure, there's been tough moments, but also he's like, I'm able to have a lot harder conversations with my dad and my brother than I would be with a typical employee that we brought on. And I was like, okay, that makes a lot of sense. It's like, it is risky, but if y'all can have open communication, everybody keeps kind of handling their own stuff, and it does seem to me like the risk could be well worth the reward. Yeah.
I think for us, our first priority is our relationship. So, and there has to be a level of humility there too, that says we're in this together. Your opinion is just as valid as my opinion, and I don't have to win everything. I don't have to always be right.
Yeah.
This episode of Hustle on Purpose is brought to you by Arkansas Real Estate Buyers. If you have a problematic piece of real estate, we would love to help you. Go to the description, click on the link, schedule a free consultation with me personally, and we'll get you set up. Now let's get back to the show.
Yeah, as long as everybody stays cool, man. Nice and mature about everything, like everything will be fine.
Yeah.
Well, that's good. So what all are y'all doing now? Like, I know it's mostly commercial playgrounds.
Yeah, it's only commercial.
Only commercial. Okay.
Yeah, so we're in, we do schools, parks, city parks, preschools, daycares, churches, anywhere that wants a commercial playground, we'll do it. We also do all types of surfacings.
Okay.
So like where you see turf, we can do that. There's other kinds, and then we also do
like
shades.
The rubber. That
Poured
rubber.
in place rubber.
So how does this is another tangent?
Yeah.
But like when I look at those playgrounds, and you walk on them and it's soft, it's like that cushiony. It's almost like rubber or cork, but it's all like kind of melted together. Is that Is it like asphalt? Like it comes like melted together and you pour it and like smooth it out?
It doesn't come together, but yeah, you
Okay.
mix it like concrete and pour and trowel it down.
Wild. Okay.
But you're right. It underneath is just shredded rubber and a binder,
Okay.
and it cures just like concrete does, and you just put it on, and depending on the term is fall height, critical fall height. So depending on how high the equipment is, will tell us how thick of the underlayment needs to be.
So you can do it like really thick? Do you know how thick you can do it?
Yeah, well, you can do it as thick as you want, but
It gets expensive.
it gets expensive, and there also isn't testing for it. So the standards that govern playgrounds is ASTM.
Okay.
Don't ask me what these stand for because I forget.
Yeah.
And the people that check whether you are compliant with ASTM standards is IPEMA.
Okay.
So IPEMA will certify your equipment and certify your surfacing, saying it's in compliance with ASTM standards. So ASTM is our code. When we talk about it's out of code or in code, that's the code.
Gotcha.
And that applies for all playgrounds everywhere.
Right.
And what was I going to say? And the surfacing that we use, IPEMA has only certified it up to a certain fall height because equipment just in the past has not been higher. Now it's starting to be. So it'll, for poured in place rubber and turf, which for us, we use the same under material that gives you the fall height protection.
Right.
We've got them IPEMA certified up to an 8-foot fall height, which 8 feet.
That's a long ways. Yeah.
But what's funny is we've got equipment or we can sell equipment that goes past that. So it gets a little hairy when the manufacturers start making this 15, 17-foot tall equipment.
And you don't have the fall height protection coating for the floor.
Yeah, but it's not IPEMA certified, but there are ways to, once you install it, to test it.
Like a bowling ball? See how high it bounces?
Basically. Yeah, so you get like some pressurized ball, and it electronically measures the impact when it hits. And based on those readings, you can know if it protects up to a certain limit.
Interesting. Okay. Makes total sense. It's stuff like this that I enjoy because it's like you look at a playground as a novice and you're like, that's a nice playground. Looks like kids would enjoy it. But there's obviously like so much more that goes into it that most people never even think about.
It's blown up because up until really the 90s or the 2000s, playgrounds were still the monkey bars on dirt.
Well, that's what I was saying. Like all of these floor coatings seem nice because I'm about to just sound like an old man. It's like I vividly remember picking pea gravel out of my knees after like going off a slide or like, dude, they would put mulch.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, what a terrible thing in a playground. It's just like every kid's just getting wood in their eyeballs.
So funny thing about that. So the surfacings we still do is wood mulch.
Oh, nice.
Rubber mulch, poured in place, and turf. There's two other surfacings. One, rubber tiles, which we don't touch. Rubber breathes with the temperatures, and when you've got tile mats locked together, they never stay locked together, and they're super
kids
expensive.
running on them and like
I mean, you see any playground, there's a gap like at least 1 inch to 2 inches between each tile. Anyway, so we don't do those. And then there's pea gravel, which is terrible.
It just holds dirt. Like you look like that kid from Charlie Brown with like the dust cloud like around him. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah,
like when you
and
get
if
off
Charlie Brown had it in his ears, that would be true too.
Yeah.
It gets in the ears anyway, and kids eat it, and then it comes in it's terrible. It's messy, and but it's grandfathered in right now.
Right.
But it's not ADA compliant. There's one playground law. ASTM is just standards, but there's only one law truly regarding playgrounds, and that's the ADA law. So everything has
handicap
to be
accessible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
handicap accessible, wheelchair accessible.
Which Pea Gravel's like
Is
very
not.
anti-wheelchair.
Nope.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like
If
nothing's
you have it,
rolling
you can
through there.
keep it. If you're getting something new, we won't touch it.
Gotcha. That's what when you said grandfathered in. Like, okay. I'm sure it's significantly less expensive than the poured in place rubber.
Significantly.
Yeah. But the rubber's really cool. When you go to like a
Yeah.
new playground with the rubber, it's like, I want this in my bedroom.
Yeah, and the the plus is virtually no maintenance.
Yeah.
Whereas all these other things, they get displaced, they get thrown out, eaten. It's in your building. You've got to top that off because when your DHS representative comes by, that has to be to a certain depth. And when it's not, you got to top it off. So you're doing that at least once a year,
Yeah.
depending on how rowdy your kids are.
Yeah.
So over time, you're spending a lot of money on cheap surfacing, whereas you just get it over with 1 year. And now it's a little bit different between turf and poured in place that we're seeing. There's places you don't want to do poured in place because it just doesn't hold up. Like with older kids,
Like higher traffic areas or
older kids when they start to pivot real hard, and it just doesn't hold up. Like we personally offer a 1 year warranty with our poured in place, whereas
Yeah.
our turf will offer a 15-year warranty.
yeah.
And
Yeah,
it's like paint. Once you patch it, it'll never match again.
Right. Yeah, it makes total sense. Yeah, you don't want it somewhere next to like the football field where everyone's wearing cleats and
Definitely. It works for little toddlers, like little babies that are crawling on it, and that's where I actually recommend it because little babies don't want to crawl on prickly turf.
Right.
And they're not going to
All those
destroy
videos of the babies
poured
like
in place.
avoiding the grass, like you try to put
Holding
your
their
kid
arms
down
up.
and they just like they go full Mission Impossible.
Yeah, yeah.
It's funny. So there's a fall rating on pea gravel.
Yeah, you got to have 9 inches. And I think that only, I'm pretty sure that only covers you up to like 6 feet.
Yeah,
I could
because
be
I'm
wrong.
like, it's pretty unforgiving.
Yeah, yeah. And on wood mulch,
Yeah.
technically you can't just go buy wood mulch from Lowe's and that be the surfacing
Okay.
that I'm talking about.
It's specific.
We call it engineered wood fiber. And it's actually what we get. It's actually made in Benton. But it is gone through the mulcher many more times to get down to a tiny size,
Right.
which will allow it to compact, and then it becomes ADA compliant.
Absorbs more fall force or whatever.
Yeah. And, well, if it doesn't compact, you can't get a wheelchair through it. And, yes, the compaction also plays into a factor for the fall height attenuation, but more so with the ADA, in my opinion.
Interesting.
And they say, this is a tangent, but they say rubber mulch is ADA compliant. But
We're talking about like shredded, like the stuff that they put in some of the AstroTurf, like the little black, like.
not even that small,
Oh, okay.
but big chunks.
Oh, big chunks. Okay.
Yeah,
I haven't
which-
seen that.
My dad always says, this is how they've passed as ADA compliant. It's compacted down into a cube, and then they run a wheelchair over it. But in real life,
Yeah.
you throw it down, it compacts, but then give it 2 days of children's playing on it, and
Right.
it's
Yeah.
messed around with.
Yeah.
But with 6 inches, you're covered for all of the fall heights. Rubber's really good with protection.
The falling. Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting. So with these clients y'all are doing playgrounds for, y'all handle everything, full like design? It's like they give you a budget. Like I come to you and I'm like, hey, we got this much money. Here's the area. Design us a playground.
Yeah, we're pretty turnkey except for dirt work. We kind of stay away from that. If it's minor,
Yeah.
and it'd be petty for me to tell you to go get somebody else, we'll do that. But anything past that, we'd rather a landscaping company take care of any retaining wall needs, because everything's got to be level for our equipment,
Yeah.
and we don't want to put in retaining walls. That's not our expertise. So
Well, it's just a lot of, that's a whole nother business.
yeah, and we're not retaining wall guys, and and we don't have the equipment to move dirt the way these landscaping company people
Yeah.
can, and so we just leave it up to them.
And retaining walls can be a little sketchy if not done really professionally. And doing one next to a playground would also like really sketch me out.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's like being a mechanic, and like you need like a really good mechanic on like the school buses.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah,
like-
absolutely. Yeah, I get sketched out when I come and see like landscape timbers as a retaining wall, and like 2 of them are about to fall off. Like, yeah, I can't put surfacing up against that. It'll just make it fall over. Luckily,
Yeah.
there's use zones, and which just means I've got to protect fall heights up to a certain distance away from the equipment. So the retaining wall is not going to be next to the equipment.
Right.
The kid's not going to jump off a platform and go flying off the edge.
Or
but-
land like on the retaining wall or something.
You're right. But if you're going to put expensive surfacing up against it, you want to hold
Fix it
that
ahead
the
of
best
time.
you can.
Or yeah.
Yeah, because it's expensive. And like turf, you can't really restretch it. So
Really?
once you push turf down, it needs to be there for a long time.
Stay there. Yeah. That makes total sense. What's like the biggest playground you've done since you've been there?
Me personally, or Davis Playgrounds?
Just Davis Playgrounds.
We've done a couple that are pretty good. I just flew with my drone Oaklawn STEAM school.
STEM
And-
probably.
Yeah,
It may
STEM
be STEAM.
Magnet and
Yeah.
across from Oaklawn
Okay.
Casino.
Yeah.
And we did like a whole row of turf. We did basketball courts. We did a soccer goal, a giant piece of equipment. We did inclusive equipment, which means it's got ramp system for
Yeah.
wheelchairs to get on.
That's awesome.
We did our board in place, rubber mulch, turf. I mean, it was just a huge project. It looks fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah, that one. And then we also did Layman's Plaza.
Okay.
Layman Library in North Little Rock. They
been.
did a big inclusive playground there that we did. And
Awesome.
we've done it all over. We're working on one. I won't mention anything necessarily specific, but if we get that one, it would be the biggest Davis Playgrounds has ever done.
Nice.
And so, fingers crossed.
Have you had to do a lot of the like finding the vendors for all of these jobs?
So, no, we goes against better practice, but we've essentially got all our eggs in one basket.
Okay.
We've got a crew that works for us,
Yeah.
and here was one thing that I didn't necessarily expect, and I thought would cross over from the real estate investment company that we worked for.
Mm-hmm.
I was used to multiple vendors, hire, fire,
Yeah.
turnover, and hiring. Anyway, I was
A lot
used
of
to
that.
all that. I mean, that was like half the job is trying to find people to do it.
Yeah.
And I thought the carryover was we would have multiple people. We would need to constantly be
Right.
hiring, and
Yeah.
that wasn't the case.
Good.
The job itself can be done reliably with one crew. Now, as we're growing, he being the owner of the crew that works for us, which they're not our employee, but they
Right.
don't install for anyone else. He just hired another guy, so he will grow
Yeah.
as we grow, but he covers our equipment, and then we've got a crew for surfacing, and that's it. And
I guess that's really it. Yeah.
and another reason is
Like concrete, y'all did basketball courts, so y'all the surface guys handle concrete too?
no, they won't do our concrete.
Okay.
The equipment guys will.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so they do
Perfect.
concrete, the equipment, and they've got the same certifications that me, my dad, and my sister have. We're all three CPSI certified playground safety inspector,
Okay.
and so are our installers. So, and then they're also risk certified, which I am too, which is more acronyms and
Yeah.
denotes to the installation.
you ever go inspect a playground that y'all didn't do and just find a bunch of issues?
No, would be easy to do.
Yeah.
It gets real specific towards things like if there's a entrapment hazard, like can a kid get his head stuck?
Yeah.
I see use zones just obliterated all over. I mean, things too close to everything.
Right.
I was with a customer the other day, and I was looking at this swing set, and it was just awful. It was makeshift. Anything makeshift is just going to be wrong because they don't know the standards.
Right.
And I was like, is that staying? She was like, I don't know. Does it need to go? It's got to go. Because she wanted me to put surfacing under it, and I was like, I can't.
It's right next to the snake pit.
There's so many things wrong with it.
You can't have kids swinging over the lion cage or
yeah.
Was it just like too close to what? Too close to?
It was too close to the fence. I mean, it was like 5 feet from the fence, or not even 5 feet. It was like 3 feet from the fence. And then they put 3 swings in a bay. You can only have 2.
That makes sense.
And yeah, so there was a couple of things wrong.
Are swings the most dangerous thing on the playground?
They can be.
Because I feel like they are.
Yeah, they definitely can be. Let a kid run in front of somebody swinging.
Dude, they're just flying. Like oblivious. Like I have a niece that I've always told her like she has the situational awareness of a jellyfish. Like she just has like she just doesn't know what's happening around her. And like it's common with kids, right? Like there's a kid on a swing and they're like, well, I just looked there and there wasn't anybody there, right? So I'm probably fine to just go running. And it's like, oh, I didn't think the swing was coming.
And now they have zip lines. So that's another.
Nice. Don't go look at my zip line in my front yard. It is not safety approved. It's dangerous.
That's okay. It's at your house.
Yeah, it's fine. I only strap my kids to it, so it's fine.
It's good. They'll be all right.
Yeah, I've seen some of and some of them, they're not even, they're like rails.
Mm-hmm.
Those are sweet.
So, yeah, the different manufacturers will do it differently.
Yeah.
Ours is rope, but both will last just as long. And our rope is steel reinforced, so it's good to go.
Yeah.
They're fun.
Yeah. Well, and I've seen one of the parks we've been to, they're like, they had one that's handicap accessible.
Mm-hmm.
You like load up in there and go down this.
Which is it, handicap accessible?
Yeah, it's like a little zip line rail thing.
Oh, zip line. Okay. I thought you were talking about a swing for a second.
Oh.
Because those are pretty dangerous. Like we've got swings that
because it's big and
an entire wheelchair can sit in.
Yeah.
And man,
it's gonna take a kid out.
Yeah, and that's not rubber or plastic. That's like straight steel with hard edges. So if we sell it, we really want our customers to put it in its own area with its own fence, completely away from everything, because it's a battling ram. It's going to do some damage if it hits.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that's like because the swing itself to hold a wheelchair has got to be
heavy duty.
Heavy duty.
Yeah.
You can only duct tape so many pool noodles to something, to try and make it safe.
For real. Yeah.
Davis Playgrounds where we duct tape pool noodles to stuff.
It'll be all right.
It'll be all right. These are, what's the fall rating on your average pool noodle? You get an inch of foam compression.
An inch of air.
Yeah, it'll be fine. Goodness, that's funny. Well, the reason I reconnected with you recently is because you just started your YouTube channel.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought it was really cool. I need to show it to Aaron because I think at that time you just had the one video up, and you were doing it yourself, which is great. But how I know it's been a short period of time, but how's your experience been with as a business leader trying to use YouTube as a tool to market yourself? How has that been in kind of just that short period of time? You may not have enough to tell me, but
I can tell you my experience. It is short. So we have typically, what we've done in the past is we've got our own website,
Yeah.
Shameless plug, davisplaygrounds.com.
Yeah, do it. What's the name of the YouTube channel too? Davis Playgrounds?
Yeah, just Davis
Yeah.
Playgrounds. What we've just done in the past is have your typical gallery on our website.
Yeah.
And we're doing, and all of that is just pictures that we've done.
Right.
And we're doing more drone recording videos, you know, the slow fly around, and we needed a place to really put that and kind of showcase it. And we've been wanting to use that tool, YouTube, for other things as well, like blast emails, include links in there, and to just grow our marketing. So I've uploaded that one video. We did a playground of the month, and we've got, I haven't uploaded anything else, but I've got some video footage I need to edit. Just been busy. And we plan on doing, I just got a time-lapse camera too, and I plan on time-lapse video capturing our installations.
That'd be cool.
And so we plan on having like playground of the month videos, just normal gallery videos, maybe some shorts, and installation time lapse. And I was thinking with the shorts we could do more informational.
Yeah.
Because, you know, here's the thing. We get a lot of times, man, I'd say like 8 times out of 10, if I go talk to a new customer, they come show me a playground from 1942, and they're like, I played on this when I was a kid. And so when you get what there's until you buy your first commercial playground in this day and age, there's a lack of awareness of everything that goes into it. There's always sticker shock. And they want me to put it on the side of a hill, and we can't do that. So I was thinking we could use the shorts to kind of raise informational awareness on if you're wanting to plan a playground in the future, what are some questions you need to be asking yourself to prepare and plan exactly what you want. Because we really, Davis Playgrounds, we really care about your vision, what you want as a customer. Like, that's our number one priority. And we want to work in your budget. I'm not going to, you know, I want to get you something you can afford, but I also want it to fit your needs. And not knowing those needs is something to overcome.
And people just don't know, like, it's the same, I think, in any industry. You have this this knowledge gap that you have to overcome. You have to bring the client along with you on this journey over this gap, like where they have to get informed so they can make an informed decision. That's just part of that sales process. And YouTube and anything that you do on there will likely just help you shorten some of that process.
Yeah.
Because, you know, it's in my industry, it's, you know, real estate. Obviously, it's like that's all gone online. It's like if your listing doesn't have photos, so like, you know, the couple looking at the house can see them on Zillow at 10 p.m. when they're laying in bed, just like scrolling through what hit the market this week or today or whatever.
They'll forget about it.
It's going to get no attention and whatever. Like, it's just gone. Our world has just gone the way of like needing pictures and videos and anything that you can do. Hopefully this is a word of encouragement. I think what happens with people when they start their YouTube channel, and not that I'm like some guru at this, but I'm going through it as well, is you start it needing something out of it ASAP, which is just like a bad thing to do. Like, I don't really like need anything from the YouTube. I'm just I get to talk to cool people like you, and like might as well put that on camera, and hopefully somebody can get some knowledge or entertainment out of it, right? But it's really, people get discouraged because it takes a lot of time to take the time to film those videos and edit them and upload them, and
a lot of time.
Whatever. Props to you for doing it on your own. I don't do the filming and editing. That's what Aaron does.
Well, you saw the quality.
It was great. Like, I was genuinely impressed with it, because like I just from doing a little bit of this myself, it's like I understand, like, you had to get the drone footage, you had to set up the camera and like talk to the camera, and that is really difficult to do. I mean, anybody who's ever, made their own voicemail message, that's like a brief glimpse of it, right? Because you delete it 47 times because you hate the way you sound. It's worse on camera because not only the way you sound, it's the way you look, and it's just like getting.
Yeah, I remember thinking like, why am I moving so much? What are you doing? There was a couple of explicits dropped.
Yeah, it's brutal, man. It's brutal. Like I think I told you, it's like I had a lot of people that love and care about me that watched some of my first videos, and they're like, man, like watch some of the YouTube stuff. It looks great. And I'm like, really? Like, thanks. Like, I thought it was awful. And it was like, I think the first video was maybe 3 to 5 minutes long. And they're like, yeah, like you're a natural. And I'm like, that 5-minute video took us 3 hours. It was so brutal. Like, I know for a fact Aaron left that day because I was just apologizing profusely. I'm like, I think it'll get better. But like it was like the first day was a really rough day, man.
Yeah, that's how I felt on the first one.
So props to you for doing it. And people, I think, get discouraged because the benefits of it are not going to be like visible to you, like
not immediately. At
YouTube
least.
will give you some metrics and whatever, and you'll see some data, but it's like, it's one of those things where it's pretty common in entrepreneurship where you just have to stick with it. You have to like really see it through, I think. Mm-hmm. And,
that's the hardest part is when you're doing something you don't necessarily, like I'll put it in your words, need to do.
Right.
And it's hard.
And it's taking away from hours you'd be spending with your kids or hours you'd be spending actively transacting something, selling a playground and seeing the immediate benefit of it.
Yeah.
But I think, if you're coming from a place of, I'm putting this up there because they're evergreen. Any customer we have in the future, you can have a rapport with them before 100%. You even meet with them, right? And they can know you a little bit better and understand how playgrounds work. And maybe they already figured out, like, well, originally I wanted the playground over here, but like after watching some of your videos, I realized, well, we can't afford the dirt work because there's a hill there, or and all of a sudden, all those hours you spent making those videos, well, it's like you haven't seen it, but you've shortened your sales process. You've educated people along the way. It can be a very mutually beneficial win-win situation. It's just like, it's hard to, as a business owner, every hour I spend on something is an hour I'm not spending on something else.
Yeah, and with video editing, I can follow that rabbit for a long time. Yeah. I have to I'm one of the guys that can focus way too hard on one thing for way too long, and I get just entranced. So I have to set reminders, I'm only going to devote this amount of time, and no matter where I'm at, I'm going to turn it off and move on. Because I've got to find the balance, because I also geek out on this stuff, which is probably why I follow the rabbit too long. Yeah. But I've got to find the balance, because I still got to take care of my customers. I've got to be there for my wife and kids, and I've got to, I've got a lot of things going on, which is fine. But I've had to learn how to say, okay, I've worked on it enough today. I'm at where I'm at, and that's okay. It's time to move on. Yeah.
I'm still learning that lesson. It's really hard. I have a bad tendency of, I think this is common too, or at least I hope it is. I hope I'm not the only one. I'm really, really good at being busy, and I genuinely enjoy working. Mm-hmm. The issue for me comes in, I can have the tendency of going down the wrong rabbit hole. And something like video editing, for me, the last several months, it's been financial modeling. I'm not good at Excel. I need to be. But I've kind of gone down that rabbit hole. Mm-hmm. Been working on creating this real estate fund and for that, I'm creating kind of these Excel-based tools for financial projections and modeling stuff.
That'll take. Oh yeah, keep going. Sorry.
So it's like I stumbled upon some of this, and it's a deep rabbit hole. Like I realized very quickly why people get degrees in like exactly this, right?
Because you're coding macros at that point.
Yeah, and it's like, okay, but like it was interesting, and I could see myself getting better at it, and it's like something about my ADHD, and it was, giving me whatever dopamine I guess I crave, and like I could sit there and work on that for days at a time and like forget to eat, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it's a blessing and a curse. It's a double-edged sword. The other side of that is it's not the thing that's moving the needle for my business. It's not the thing that's like giving my family everything they need, which is, time from me and
being
stuff
present.
like that.
Yeah.
Right. So it's like, it just seems like, why can't the rabbit holes that I want to fall into be the things that are necessary, like at the moment? It's like this weird dichotomy where it's like the things that I'm enjoying are not the things that are necessarily where my focus needs to be at the moment.
But I believe that things of that nature will still always have a return.
Right.
As long as I can find balance while I'm growing in these new aspects. Because I always think, I was reading a book called Flow. I'm going to butcher his name. Nihai McCheck with something.
It sounds like it's probably butchered.
Yeah. And there's other books that I've read that always talk about having something new to learn.
Yeah.
And constantly challenging myself and going through always trying to find a learning process to go through. And right now with video editing, luckily it lines up with a return in the business.
Yeah.
But I've got to find that balance, because I think for me, I'm like you in that I love to work. Mm-hmm. If my wife and kids weren't in my life, I would honestly just work till 8 o'clock every day on weekends. And I would make time for whatever I needed to, but if I was home, I'd just be working.
Yeah.
But I have a responsibility whenever I'm done to essentially dust my shoes off at the door, come in happy to see my family and get down in the floor with my kids and be present with them. Because at the end of the day, my home life will, even though we say we got to dust our shoes off before we enter work, it's not that effective if my home life is chaotic and destructive. It's going to carry over into my work life. I can't, because it's me. It's a part of me.
Right.
And so nourishing my home life is just as important as the way I handle my business. Almost, if not more, you could even argue it's more important.
Yeah.
But I've got to be present with my wife and kids. It's very important to me.
Yep. Yeah, same. It's like my wife doesn't like it when I phrase it like this. I made the mistake of doing this once, but it's like I block off time for them in my calendar.
Yeah.
Like I structure my day in a way that it's like from 4 p.m. to 8:39, whenever they're all asleep. Like that is, I do my best to like, I am home, and that is time with my kids. And sometimes that means I come back out here to the office after the kids are down. But it's like I was able to be home and spend those like uninterrupted 4 or 5 whatever hours with them at the end of the day. And like I turn down dinner meetings. Like I'm not your guy for a dinner meeting. Like I've got 3 small kids. See you in like, I don't know, 10 years for a dinner meeting. But like right now it's like it is tough to get me to a dinner.
I get that. I
lunch,
totally get that.
Lunch for sure.
Lunch is great.
See you at lunch.
Yeah.
We'll grab a coffee. But like dinner is like just, unless the wife and 3 kids are coming, then like, yeah, we're good. You can have your.
And
you
I
can have
didn't
your
want the
bottle of-
sound to be like
Oh yeah,
ASMR.
Celsius ad, yeah. Alex Hermosi, which I don't know if you know, if you've seen any of his stuff. He's all over YouTube, and I've read his book a couple of times. He's got a new one coming out that I'm really excited about. But he has a quote that's stuck with me that kind of pertains to this. It's like people think about stuff through the lens of like winners and losers, and he's like, that's wrong. It's like there's players and quitters. And he's like, the goal of business is not to win at business, it's to stay in business. Like the goal of your marriage is not to like win at marriage, it's to stay married, right? The goal of your fitness is not to like win at fitness, it's to stay fit. And I really like that perspective. It's been helpful for me because it's like, you know, like let's just take the fitness. It's like it would be better for you to work out 20 minutes a day every day for the rest of your life than to go to the gym for 6 hours every day for the next 2 weeks. You know what I mean? Like it's better to do the little habits every day for the rest of your life that create the life that you want than it is to just like binge on something in the moment. It's like you don't, or from the marriage perspective, it's like you don't take your family on a 2-week vacation and that gets you.
That does it for the year.
Right. It's like, well, and then it's like, okay, we're back from our 2-week vacation. I'm going to go work for 4 weeks straight. See ya.
Yeah.
You know, like granted, if your situation dictates you have to do that, then do what you got to do. But it is better to have dinner with your family every night. You know, like I have breakfast and dinner with my kids every day, almost without exception.
I think it goes back also to the, I mean, if you read any leadership book, it always comes up the question of why, like what's your why? And I love that question because it helps get the perspective that you were describing. Like what's really important? Why am I doing this? What are my driving factors? Because when I get real honest and I start listening to those things, it's not the superficial things that I thought were my drivers or what I really cared about. What I really value and what really is my why is setting up a future for my kids. How much can I give back?
Right.
How good of a dad or a husband can I be? And you would think that my why would be to make money. And no.
Well, it takes money sometimes to do all those other things.
Sure. I think it's
but it's like, why do you want the money?
Right. If I just want money for money's sake, I don't believe that's going to lead me to fulfillment and happiness.
Yeah.
Why do I want money? So that I can be present and do all these other things. You know what I mean? It's like, why do you want a big house? So I can host events for church.
Right.
You know what I mean?
But my small group can come here.
Yeah.
And like,
yeah,
the youth group can have events here or whatever. Yeah, I'm the same way. I'll tell you what, I wish I could give you like, I had that aha moment when I had my first kid or whatever. I realized a while ago, I'll just like confess to this. When diving into my why, like why do I always feel this like undeniable urge to just like keep going, try to keep pushing and growing and whatever. And it's like, dude, I had this like kind of dark moment where I realized I do a lot of this for me. Like just being honest, like would love to give everyone the like happy-go-lucky, like I do this for, it has changed. Now it's a lot more, but at this point in my life, it was like, man, I do a lot of this for me. A lot of this is selfish. Like I realized I want the recognition. I want the whatever. And through the last handful of years, it has changed. And now it's part of what changed it for me, because part of what changed it for me is, and this is not bragging, but I had a moment like a year and a half ago where some things in the business happened. Business was great. I I had a moment where I deposited more money in like our personal checking account than I probably ever thought that I would.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a great moment. But sometimes with those great moments comes some like, it's like when you have a big like dopamine hit, you get it's like a hangover, right? Like with the joy of the night before comes the negativity of the hangover the next morning. It's like with this like great moment and celebrating that came some realization that, oh, like some of that stuff that I always thought was cliche in the past really is true about like the money won't solve all your problems. The money doesn't just automatically make you happy. It's like you wake up the next day and you realize, oh, I still have problems. Like, oh, I'm still, have some inner demons I'm still battling with. And like, it helped solidify for me some of that stuff that I always thought was BS. You hear people with money say money won't solve all your problems. And you're like, yeah, right, dude. Like when I'm struggling to pay my bills, it's like, dude, money sounds awfully nice. Like easy for you to say money would solve a lot of my problems. But then you kind of get to a place and you realize, my problems are just different now, but they're very real problems.
And okay, so personal experience. I was always the guy that was like, the grass is greener on the other side. I was always peeking over the fence, looking at what other people had. Mm-hmm. And I was one of the ones that was like, there's no way I can have that feeling of fulfillment where I'm at right now, because I don't have the tools.
Right.
Money. I don't have the money to be fulfilled.
Right.
And that was such a load of crock of.
You have to choose happiness, no matter where you're at.
And the thing is like
you picking it.
Do what?
It just doesn't happen without you choosing to be happy.
No, it's not it doesn't come passively. Mm-hmm. If I just sit here, I'm actually going to, and do nothing, I'm going to get depressed. I'm not going to get happy. It goes back to, I had to find a way to be, because before the real estate job and then the job I'm at now, I was working at Tropical Smoothie, and I had to find a way to be fulfilled and happy there. Mm-hmm. And it's like, and the way I had to figure that out or do it is going back to the why and start focusing on building up relationships, building up my spirituality, building up community, worrying about other people for a change. And I'm not a great person. I don't just instinctually care about people. Yeah. And I know that sounds terrible, but I really have to try.
It takes work for me as well.
It really does. And like when I talk to people, I have to focus on, okay, they just said a fact about their life. Spencer, you need to remember that so that you can have an impact. And I don't just instinctually know that. But when I started to do those things and habits started to form, perspective started to change, I actually felt fulfilled. And I didn't have to be rich to do it. You can be dead broke and feel fulfilled. Yeah. Once that perspective, like you said, once it switches from a me-centered perspective to a you-centered perspective, kind of like Craig Rochelle. I don't know if you ever listened to him. He does a leadership podcast, and he always talks about a you-centered leader versus a me-centered leader. And once that switch happens, man, that's when the world opens up.
Yeah.
And that's when the world opens up.
Yeah. For me, it was part of that process it took me getting more money than I thought that I would have to realize that it's true. It's just not, it's a great goal, but having that goal now, it helps solidify in my brain that money is just the tool. It's just a drill or a screwdriver or whatever. And it can be used for terrible things. It can be used for incredible things. And realizing that, okay, like the goal is still money, still need money to operate in the world. But now that I've realized it's not what makes me happy, and that it's not going to just like, I have to kind of fix me. The money's not going to do it, Now it has just helped me change that why to, okay, part of the why is still money, but now it's very much for like my family, my loved ones, my church, my community, and it's much more, like you said, fulfilling that way. So
I think the greatest gift that we can have in our existence is an impact. Does that make sense?
yeah, absolutely. You know, I had this conversation with someone yesterday. I'm trying to remember who it was. The sleep deprivation, like I said, is getting to me. It's 2-week-old. But I had a guy that I'm close to that's worth however many millions of dollars. And he told me one day, he was like, I realized one day, like, he used to think he wanted to be a billionaire. And then he realized the sacrifices he was going to have to make in order to do that weren't worth it for him.
Yeah.
And I think about, you know, the guy that owns the company we used to work for, and I always leave it vague like that, but I admire him in a way, and I'm also like sorry for him in a way, because it's like he's so driven. It's impressive like how driven he is, and he's probably already hit that billionaire mark. But it's just not worth it to me. I don't look at his life with envy.
Yeah. Yeah.
At all.
I agree.
And so 25-year-old me would have called 33-year-old me a loser, right? Like 25-year-old me would have been like, man, you've gone soft. You've become a loser. Like, where's your drive? Where's your determination? It's like, it's still there. It's just geared very differently.
Yeah, I was about to say, it's there. It's just different.
It's just geared differently, just a different goal. Like you said, the impact of, I just don't want a bunch of like rich kids at my funeral just fighting over the scraps like vultures. It's like,
ooh, and yeah, that
I want to leave that impact with them and hopefully others, that it's like, I would like to leave them something, but I still want them to have Thanksgiving dinners together when I'm gone. You know what I mean?
Yeah, because my mother-in-law, their family did not handle the passing of their mom well, my wife's grandma, and it caused division trying to handle the funds, and it's funny seeing people older than me be so petty.
Yeah. Well, my hope is to have it taken care of, like, because you can do so much estate planning stuff where it's like the issues that I've seen come into play when it's just not clear.
Yeah, when it's left up to them.
Right. You leave it up to your kids on who gets what, and like, yeah, you're just opening it up to there being a big fight. And it's like any legacy you feel like you spent your whole life working for gets shredded in a month. You know, because now there's bad blood in the family, and everybody's like, and it's your fault. You didn't plan your estate. Like, that's a brutal way to put it, but dude, it's just like,
No, yeah, if you had the opportunity.
you had your whole life.
Yeah, it's a big opportunity.
I mean, your whole life leads up to your death, right? Like, you had your whole life to like, I think I'm just very aware of it because my dad passed away when I was young, and like left my mom with like a business to run and me to raise, and so I'm always kind of thinking about stuff through that lens. Like, dude, I could get hit by a bus tomorrow. And my wife likes to give me a hard time about like a midlife crisis. And I was like, midlife for me was 10 years ago. We're way past the midlife crisis.
Came and went.
She doesn't like that joke, but I'm just like, dude, that's the way I live my life. I try to live my life like, get hit by a bus tomorrow. Like,
Let me ask you this, because you remind me of a question that me and Rachel have yet to finalize our thoughts on.
okay.
When your kids go to college, how do you plan on financially handling that? Like, do you plan on, like, what is your plan? Do you plan on being involved?
It depends on the real estate market at the time.
Good answer.
It's very we haven't figured that out. One of the issues with my business, and it may be the same with yours, I'm not sure, but it's very we call it, in my household, we call it pasta and meat seasons. It's like we just have some pasta seasons, stuff's tight, and we have some meat seasons where it's like, go, get the steaks tonight or whatever. Yeah. But there's sowing and harvesting seasons. There's whatever. We are putting money back for, could be college, could be whatever they choose to do. If they choose to start a business at 18, the money is not in I forget the numbers. There's a number for like the college savings accounts that you can start, but there's government restrictions on how that money can be used, and it's predominantly for education.
It's gotta go, yeah.
Yeah, so it's not in anything like that. But we have some different financial vehicles we're using to save money for them. They've got retirement accounts. They've got cash value life insurance policies, and things like that. So when they turn 18, they should have some money to do what they want to do with.
Do they get it like the savings you're saving?
We're in
up
control
forward?
of all of those things.
So they don't just get it automatically?
Correct. Yeah. Yeah. Like they are in, the accounts are in their names, but my wife and I are the controllers of it. And that won't change when they reach adulthood. Like we're in control of them until we sign over control of it.
Cool.
So, I don't know if that's helpful for you. Because the way I used to set very concrete plans like that, or concrete goals like that. It's like, we're going to have $200,000 in this account by the time Emma turns 18, and it'll be for college. But the longer I live, the more I'm just like, we just don't know.
Yeah.
And setting those concrete goals like that has just led me to disappointment. Because when something doesn't go exactly to plan,
yeah,
I get disappointed.
You're bringing in expectations.
Yeah, and I mean, from the religious aspect, I've also realized like, I don't think setting those plans like that is biblical. We are supposed to live our lives in a way of asking God what He wants us to do. So I always try to balance that, planning for the future, but doing it in a way that leaves us open to following what God wants us to do.
Yeah. We can still be a good steward of our money and save and plan for the future.
Right.
But it's not up to me what the future is going to be.
Yeah, I mean, and just to be honest, so like that money that gets put back, like it's put back with the purpose of the kids getting it, but it's done in a tax beneficial way, and it's done in a way where Anna and I still control it. We can still loan against it. I mean, dude, like at the end of the day, like I run a small business. Like things may not all be all sunshine and rainbows. 3 years from now, maybe really tough season, and we need to pull some money out of there or loan against it or whatever. But it's been put in a vehicle that, we have good intentions for it being for the kids. And like, but also like, who knows? Like,
sure.
So I try to find those plans where it can be planned well for the future, but you have a lot of flexibility and contingency ability, if that's helpful at all.
Yeah. We've got savings for the boys, and I think they're kind of in the same vehicle, just typical savings essentially.
Yeah. Well, don't do a typical savings account. Like at a bank, don't go put it in like a Arvest like savings account.
Okay. Where should I put it?
I mean, at the very least, like if it's money you're not touching frequently, I mean, I would take it to like a credit union. At least they're going to give you, I don't know where it's at now, but probably like 3 to 4%, as opposed to like a quarter of 1%.
Yeah, you're not going to get anything from the bank.
Yeah,
essentially.
yeah, and at least for me, y'all may be more responsible than I am, but like money that we intend on not touching, I try to keep it at arm's length. Because if it's at the same bank where like our checking account's at, where all of our like monthly stuff is auto drafted from, then it's really tempting to just like
move it back,
kick some over
Yeah.
or whatever. Because like, well, like this month, like we went a little bit over, and we'll pull it from here. So putting those savings accounts somewhere where it's like it's at a different bank, or it's at a credit union, or it's with whatever insurance company, keeps it to where I get those monthly statements, but it's not like on the app on my phone where I see it immediately and just like move over. Right. That's helpful for me. It's just having it put into something that it's, even if it's liquid and available if we had to have it, it's not immediately just like in my face all the time. It's advice you didn't ask for, but
accepting it either way.
It's helpful for me. So.
Yeah.
But that's good, man. I mean, it's like you got to save money for your kids, right? But
yeah, and on the college thing, I think as far as like, because I want to put my kids in college. If they want to go to college, if they want to start a business, I'll support that too.
yeah.
But I think the way we've talked about it, I don't know, listeners may disagree, but what we're considering is if they want to go to college, and then if you graduate and get your degree, I'll pay off your student loans.
Ooh, yeah.
Otherwise, you're stuck with it. Because I was the one, I don't have a college
Incentive
degree.
based, right?
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
And my dad had saved up money, and I was just irresponsible. I was there to party, and that's what I did. And then I didn't get a degree, and there went that money.
Yeah.
And so I don't know. I think that may be how we do it.
I think that's a good way. If you're going to do it, I think that's a good way. Another thing, bit of a tangent, but like, I'm just not positive what college is going to look like by the time my kids go.
Dude.
I mean, institutional colleges, honestly, I hope they have a tough time. Because I'm just like, why would I pay the University of Arkansas however many thousands of dollars it is for like one credit hour for a psych class when my kid can go on YouTube for free and listen to Jordan Peterson? Like, it's like arguably like one of the most influential psychologists like ever, and for free. And instead of just listening to some like old person that's just like tenured at a college just to get the like accredited hours, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like something's going to come along that's going to bridge that accreditation gap. And it's like, I've had some people disagree with me on this because you get the college experience when you go, right? But I'm like, the college
How much
experience,
is that worth?
Right? You can get the college experience anywhere there's beer.
Yeah, I was about to say, for me, the college experience, a simple house party would do.
Right. Yeah, exactly. So somebody's going to bridge that accreditation gap where it's like, for significantly less money, everybody wins in this scenario I'm about to propose, except for institutional colleges and the banks that make college loans. The students win in a scenario where the best and brightest teachers lecture online, right? Like, why couldn't every Harvard professor have their own YouTube channel where they do their whole lecture, right? And that professor gets all of the benefits of running their channel, right? And like subscribers and people even paying for the course, right? Because you could pay the teacher $300 for the course to get the accredited hours, right? So the student's getting an Ivy League education, right, for a fraction of the price. They didn't even have to get into the school, right?
Right.
They just have
no
internet
application,
access.
just buy the course.
Right.
Yeah.
They just have internet access. They can get, whatever a diploma looks like, where it's like they have all these accredited hours and get a diploma. I mean, employers are going to accept that. Why wouldn't they? If it's done through whatever vehicle this is, whether it's YouTube or, whether it's University of Phoenix. I mean, it could be any of them, but somebody's going to crack that code and get it figured out.
Yeah. So way back when, I thought it would be a good idea for VR classrooms. Mm-hmm. And I have a family member that's a teacher, and she was against the idea, which I understand what she was saying, and she really values the in-person experience.
Yes.
But to your point about college, there's degrees that, like, what's the point? Where's the payoff going to be? Now, if I'm going to learn how to be a surgeon, I need to go to school.
Yeah.
I need to go in person to school.
Right.
But if I'm going to get, I don't want to offend anyone, so let's just say an unnamed degree that has no return.
Yeah.
What you're going to start out at
Egyptology.
Egyptology.
You know what most people with degrees in Egyptology do?
I assume they go to Egypt.
They teach Egyptology. It's like a pyramid scheme, bro.
Yeah. I believe it, and it's like I'm about to spend $50,000 to $100,000.
Yeah.
On an Egyptology degree.
Right.
I think those are kind of pointless, and I don't think the argument for the experience, the college experience, is strong enough to warrant that degree. But I do think there are degrees that are eminent and to have for that field. But I'm going to have this conversation with my kids.
Right. Me too. I think a lot of people are. And it's going to be a big thing.
Yeah, I think it's our generation that's starting to have those conversations, whereas before it was like, go get the paper. You need the paper.
Right. Degrees used to mean something.
Yeah. And just like they don't care what grades you make, you just need the paper that says you went through.
Right. Yeah, they don't put your GPA on your diploma. I think, so this all stemmed from like saving for college. Part of why I don't have a concrete plan there is because I don't know what college looks like in 15 years.
And like you said, maybe your kids want to grow up and be an entrepreneur at 19, 20 and go for it. And they've got a concrete plan. Yeah, I'll support you.
Right.
Yeah.
I'd rather put $100,000 into your solid business venture at 19 than into you doing God knows what at University of Arkansas. Because you're going to go there and all they're going to do is push this liberal agenda on you. And we get into we'll stay away from the politics of it, but you're just going to go off and it's like you can get the college experience working at a restaurant.
Yeah, there was some psychologist that said everyone needs to go bartend for a year and they'll learn all they need to know about psychology.
I believe that. Yeah. I've never been a bartender, but I've talked to a bunch of bartenders.
I've been a bartender for multiple years.
Yeah.
And I'm not a psychologist, but I have heard some cool stories. We'll say that. Some interesting stories. You'd be surprised what people with a drink or two at the bar will start telling you. They'll just open up like you're just standing there and they just start giving you this story that's out there.
Yeah. I believe it. I've probably been one of those people. Opened up to a few bartenders in my life.
I'm sure all of us have.
One thing I like to ask people is have you had any crazy stories? Even back in the real estate days.
Crazy stories as far as work?
Yeah. It could be Man, it's usually work related, but it's usually a crazy customer that they can't name.
Okay, so I've got a couple of those, but it'll be from my restaurant experience. As far as my experience at the real estate investment company, that was just everything was on fire 24/7. So just working there was one big story. I mean, every house we'd go into was one sneeze away from falling down, and I've had plenty of experience breathing in black mold and all of the things, and I've seen I've been a part of organic growth, right? We need to politically correctly name it.
Mold is a 4-letter word.
Yeah. And I've been a part of evictions where you see how some people live, and it's eye-opening. Yeah. And one story from my bartending days, I've got two good ones.
Nice.
So it was super, super busy this night. I was behind the bar, and I was making drinks and taking orders. And I remember, so there was a seat that had just opened up. The person that was eating had like just left. So his plates and stuff were still there. And I was so busy, like 2 seconds later, I hadn't gotten it yet. And a new guy had sat down. And I didn't realize that he was a new guy because the dirty plate was still sitting there. So that was my bad. But when the bar is so chaotically busy, there's no order that I'm going in. If you're in front of me, I get your order. That is the order that I go in.
Right.
If you're
the
in front
squeakiest wheel gets the grease.
And so I walk over to get a beer mug out of the cooler to pour a beer, and there's this lady standing in front of me, and I know she's a new customer, and I haven't gotten her order yet. So as I reach down in the beer cooler, I think to myself, like, I'm not going to make it now, but I might as well see what she wants. So I look up, and I said, what can I get you?
Yeah.
And like not 2 seconds into what this girl is ordering, like the corner of a menu just like nails me in the dome. And like I was just stunned, like what just happened. And I slowly look over with crazy eyes, and this dude's like, I've been waiting here for 15 minutes. And storms off. And I was just like, I don't have time for this. And I look back at the girl, and she's so stunned that she's not talking. And I was like, what can I get you?
Order.
Yeah. That's done and gone. It happened. Let's move on. I got
How ridiculous. Threw a menu at you.
Yeah, we went to the cameras because, of course, he complained, and we went to the cameras and looked, and it was like 3 minutes.
That is not
he
long
chunked
enough
that menu,
to
dude.
wait to throw a menu at somebody.
Bro, and it was like, I don't know how he threw it, but he had some good lift and some good trajectory. That thing
I imagine you just bleeding from the forehead and looking at this lady. What do you want?
It's just blood.
It's just blood. You want a Bloody Mary? Got you. That's awful, but also hilarious.
Okay, second story.
Okay.
And then I'll then be done with stories. But so we had this group of people. They called themselves gypsies. And they came in, and they came in all the time. This specific group of people. And they sat down, and they were eating, and I brought them their food. I think it was 14 of them. And I was taking care of them. And
Were they like couples or like just women?
Just like one big family.
Oh, okay.
Like, yeah.
Okay.
And so the restaurant I was working at was family style, which just means larger portions so they can share. So basically we bring I'm sure everyone, just in case no one's been to a family style restaurant, we bring you plates, and then everyone just takes from the main dishes and gets a couple. And anyway, so I bring all the plates, and I put all the food in front of them. And this one dude at one end of the table found a hair in his food, which is not supposed to happen. I'll replace that. I'm so sorry, and we'll comp this one dish. And dude, the other dude at the end of the table like just gets up and blows chunks in his cup, like throws up everywhere. And he was like, "That's so gross," like just blew chunks. And they just got up and left, and like didn't pay for anything, raised a ruckus. all over this one. There's 14 of them. So there's 11 dishes.
It's probably y'all's hair.
That's a possibility. And this dude, and he's at the other end of the table, and I had to clean up so let's talk about a CEO mindset. I did not have that mindset that day.
The Chunks executive officer.
Yeah, that was me that day, yeah.
Oh, no. It sounds like one of those, it sounds like they came in with a plan. It sounds like one of those,
that particular
they rotate
group of
who has to be the guy that drinks what's that, Epicac or whatever, makes you vomit. Yeah.
It's your turn.
It was just his turn. Oh.
So it seemed like, yeah.
Brutal.
That's what it is with working in restaurants. I'm so glad to not be in that lifestyle anymore.
Yeah. It's really common, and there's nothing against getting into the restaurant industry. I feel like I just got lucky. I got turned down for a job at a couple of restaurants after I was back from college, and I look back on it at the time. It's dude, I just need a job, man. I just need something to pay the bills.
Yeah.
And it is a good profession, and it's desperately needed. And I'm grateful for everybody in the restaurant business. There's just it seems like especially guys that I know, you get into that lifestyle, and there's so many negative things that come with the working at nights, working at the bar. You get it's its own, at least in Central Arkansas. Some of the buddies that I know, it's you get in the underground kind of ecosystem of everybody knows everybody that works in the restaurants, what bar everybody's going to after they get off.
Mm-hmm.
And the part that I see some people struggle with is you get kind of in that system, and it gets really hard to break out, to find another job where you can work a normal schedule, make decent money.
Yeah.
Breaking out of that is a difficult thing for a lot of people. So it's, I try to give young people a little bit of that wisdom just from seeing it. It's get in the restaurant industry and do that. There's a ton of benefits from it. You can pay your bills. You learn a lot about people, how to deal with people. A lot of good things can come from it. It's but just know that keep an eye open for the off ramp if you can.
Yeah.
Because you don't want to.
It'll suck you in, man.
Yeah.
And you'll be stuck because if you're like me, you'll make your money and then you'll go drink it away that night, and then you don't have any money. So how can I go get a new job and wait 2 weeks for a paycheck? I need this money tomorrow, and there'll always be some the next day. So you get stuck. But there is a lot of carryover and benefit. When I look at where I was to where I am now, I can see at each job where it helped me for the next job and for the next job. So from bartending and waiting tables, learning how to handle people is such a useful life skill. Handling disgruntled people, figuring out what they want, and how to wow people too. Mm-hmm. All of those, how to listen, all of those skills carried over into this job, which those set me up and carried me over into this job, and it's always building. But there's such a tendency to get stuck in the restaurant business that, like you said, you got to watch out for it, because you'll be there till you're 50 and you're like, what have I done?
Well, usually the way I've seen it play out is, like I said, particularly guys, they get to a place where they find a girl, and the girl wants, they want to get married, and they want to have kids, and all of a sudden this job doesn't play well with a marriage and children because you're working nights and weekends.
It's a nightlife.
Yeah. And then they're in a spot where they're I really want to marry this girl. We really want to have kids or whatever, but I got to find something else. And they're I don't know anything but bartending. And that is in no way me talking bad about bartending, restaurant business, whatever. It's just, I think, something that when you're 20, you're 22, you're 24, you're 26, you've always got more time. You look up and you're 30, you look up and you're 35, and you're wanting to do some of these things that involve you not being at a bar on the nights and weekends, and it gets tough.
I've got to use the bathroom.
Yeah, we're wrapping up.
Oh, are we? Okay,
Yeah.
cool. What I was going to say, yeah, I think, if I could, I mentioned at the beginning, if I could go back and tell myself something, like to help get to where I am quicker or whatever, what advice would I give myself? And no one knows who they are in their early 20s. Everyone's figuring it out during that time. Mm-hmm. But I think if I don't regret my past. I find it useful. I can use it to reach other people and have an impact. But it would have been beneficial to start thinking about my why a lot sooner, because what I was doing before was just winging life. I was just winging it. No direction, no intentionality to anything.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
I feel that. Yeah.
And I was just aimless. Mm-hmm. And once I hit about the end of 24, around when I was 25, I started to get serious about who I am, what I value, other people, and finding purpose and peace and all these things that really fulfill me. And my one advice to the younger generation would be, I sound like an old guy, to younger me would be, like I said, dig into intentionality a lot sooner.
That is such good advice. The uncertainty for me, because I mean, dude, you could have been quoting my life story in my 20s. It's just like aimless, unintentional. So much of it was just like survival of the moment.
Yeah.
It's hard to make long-term plans when you don't know what you want to do. I felt so behind. Like so many people I went to high school with were in, getting this degree or going to law school or medical school. And you see that and you're just like, man, like I'm over here. Like, I don't know what I want to do. And that uncertainty leads to you making more like short-term, short-sighted decisions. And that leads to more uncertainty. It's like this, you can have that downward spiral there. And it's like, the good thing about it is there's an upward cycle on the other side. When you start having some intentionality, that leads to better long-term, long-sighted decisions. And, I feel like I've been able to see that kind of in your life. It's like, when we had your interview at the company we used to work for, and you were at Tropical Smoothie, and you didn't have the tattoo sleeve. It's like, that's always the funny thing. It's like,
yeah, I got
Spencer
that the day before I started.
Spencer came in for an interview with no tattoos on his arm, shows up for the first day of work with fresh sleeve.
The day before. Yeah. I got tatted up. I was like, well, they're either going to keep me or fire me.
It's like, it was fine.
And I had to tell y'all, hey, can I not start on that day? Can you move me? Yeah. I've got a prior appointment.
You moved your start date, and we were like, we didn't tell us what it was for.
I was in that I don't care about anything stage still, and it was like, I made this appointment months ago. I put a deposit down, and I don't want to tell you it's a tattoo. We'll just see what happens.
It worked out,
Oh, yeah, it was great.
Just so funny. Like, you show up your first day of work, fresh tattoo. Anyway, so like, I feel like just from a distance, I've been able to kind of see some of that journey, and it's awesome, man. Like, now you look up and it's like, working for yourself and with your family and your wife and your kids and your house.
It's crazy.
Like, I think your story is your biggest tool, right? It's like, words can say a lot, but actions speak a lot louder, right? And it's like, I think whether you know it or not, it's like, certainly in your circle, I have no doubt you've been, a shining light for some people. People can see, like, man, like, not to deprecate you at all, but like, if Spencer can do it, like, I can do it, right? Like I hope
I
I've
want
been
them
able
to
to be
feel
that
that.
for somebody, right?
Yeah.
Like I hope somebody can look at me and just be like, dude, GT is like the third dullest crayon in the box, and like.
Well, that's where the power of simplicity comes in.
Yeah.
When I share things and I want to make an impact, my goal is to make what I'm talking about so remedial that whoever's listening that may not be in that position yet says, hey, I can do that.
Yeah.
That's doable.
Right.
And if I overcomplicate everything, they're not going to say that.
Dude, yeah, it's so true. So Alex Hermosi, which I talked about earlier, I'll give him another shout out. Like for all of his copywriting for marketing stuff, there's an AI that'll like read it and tell you what grade level, like reading level it's at. And he was like, everything that I do, every written word that's put out, he's like, I keep running it through this AI or whatever until it's at like a 5th, 6th, 7th grade reading
That's
level.
awesome.
And he's like, a lot of people are afraid to do that because you want to sound smart and eloquent and present yourself in a way.
People please.
But it was really interesting for me to hear him say that, because it's like, what impact are you trying to make? Are you really trying to have people learn something and digest what you're saying? Or is the impact you're trying to make
Yourself look
selfish about you and you're trying to make yourself look good? And I try to put myself through some of that, because man, it's like the cameras turn on. It's like, dude, I don't want to look like an idiot.
Sure.
You know?
But I'm not, me personally, I'm not gonna connect to somebody that's talking about stuff way over my head.
Right.
Now, if they dumb it down to 5th grade level,
Yeah.
then I can actually feel like that's possible. And I'm not gonna move to action unless I feel like it's possible. That's Craig Rochelle always talks about, what do you want the audience to feel? And I want them to feel like it's possible, because that's the guy I was listening to. Geez, I can't remember his name. You would know him. And he talks about how like that's the only way people are gonna act, is if they feel like it's possible.
Probably like
and if I
Tony
throw in a
Robbins.
bunch of jargon, they're gonna be like, that's for the birds, not for me.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Man, this has been great. Did we leave anything out?
I think we're
Spencer Davis Playgrounds on YouTube, and then davisplaygrounds.com.
Playgrounds has an S.
Playgrounds.
Plural. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
You said it. I just wanted to
Okay.
accentuate.
Right. Yeah. Perfect. Yeah. If you need a playground, he's your guy.
Yeah.
A commercial playground, not just one for your kids.
But hey, I'll put it in your backyard. If you can afford it, that's fine. We've got doctors that will buy full-blown commercial playgrounds with turf surfacing, all the impact attenuating material for their background or backyard.
What's like and this will be the last thing, because like I've got 3 kids and I've got 6 nieces and nephews that are all young. What's like the cheapest playground I could get?
I think depending on what age group, for an age group of, let's say, school-aged children, which is 5 to 12,
yeah,
I think the cheapest is like $20,000, but that's for the structure. That's not including tax, delivery, installation, or anything.
Surfacing
so like,
and
yeah, if you're wanting a basic 5 to 12 structure with some decent surfacing, you're looking at probably $40,000 to $50,000.
yeah. Y'all do financing? Yeah, I figured.
We accept checks.
Yeah, nice. Oh, that's awesome, man. Well, I'm excited for you. I'm happy for you. Thank you for coming out. This has been the Hustle on Purpose podcast. Thank you for watching and listening. Share this with anybody that may get value from it, and go check out Spencer Davis, davisplaygrounds.com, and on YouTube as well. Go check out his YouTube channel. We look forward to seeing you next time. Hustle on Purpose.